Hello, this is Andrew Dowland, and in this video I'm going to be talking about taking your Creo files and getting them ready for a DXF, and then from a DXF into the Carbide Create software to create some toolpaths. Now this video is purposeful for the ME418 manufacturing class that I'm teaching, but it's out there for anybody else to enjoy. So let's get into the details. So to get started here, I've got a part that I've pulled up here. This has been designed in Creo and it meets the requirements of the class. We're going to be using King Core color material, which is a black, white, black material. You can get it in different colors, but when you hog away material, the first outer layers of it are about 50 thousandths of an inch thick. So then you're left with a nice contrast. It's a high density HDPE, high density polyethylene material that's used for making outdoor signs. So we're going to use that in class to create a little sign related to this project. So real simple here. I've checked all the boxes in this case. I've got my design ready to go, and now I'm going to show you how to get that design from here into a DXF file and then into the Carbide Create software. So let's get into some of the details. Let's see. So first thing I'm going to do is save this part, obviously, and then we're going to go create a new drawing. So click on the new drawing, and I'm going to call this UND Proud, and away we go. I'm not too worried about this because I'm going to take out most of the template information anyway. I'll bring this in so we've got it nice and large. Now, because I want this to be an export and make it exactly the same size, first thing I'm going to do is change my scale to 1. Okay, and then I only need the front view of the drawing, so I don't need the other ones. And then I'm going to hit the lock movement button or unlock so that I can scooch this around. And generally, you want to set your files pretty close to the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So that should be in good shape. And then we're going to resize the sheet, and maybe this step isn't even necessary. Let's get into the sheet setup. I can click in the format size and go to a custom size. I know that the width of this is 12, so I'm going to go to like 12.5, and the height was 2.5, so I'll go to 3 inches. So it's about a ½ inch larger. And if I hit OK on that, I'm still left with this border that's around my part, and I can get rid of that by going into the sheet setup and then deselecting the show format. And now I'm left with just that front-facing image, and this will create the vectors necessary for us to cut out our part. So with that done, I'm going to hit save, and this is the UND Proud drawing, so that should be fine. And the big deal here, in order to get into Carbide Create, I'm going to go File, Save As, and change it down here from a drawing file type into a DXF file type. So you got to find that in here, DXF. There we go. And I'll just leave it as UND Proud. And in this, I'm not going to change any of the settings for this DXF version, so I'm just going to hit OK on that. So now I've got a DXF file that's ready to go. My next step is to open up Carbide Create. So I'll launch that. Okay, so I open up Carbide Create, and now we're going to go and just go File, Open, and if I navigate out to wherever the heck my working directory was for Creo, I can find that hashtag UND Proud, bring that up, and hit OK. Now you'll notice that my project size is a little bit smaller than this, and that's okay. It doesn't matter too much, but it'll bug me, so I'm going to fix this up and make this 13 by 3. And now all the constraints are in there. It fits inside the window. What we have to be careful of is not to grab any of this stuff and move it around, because you can do that and lose your place. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. Be careful about only just selecting your elements, because in here it just treats them like it's part of that basic Carbide Create CAD package. so it's not going to lock them in place. And the other thing I'm noticing is that some of these vectors that I have in here are not connected to one another. So we're going to go about the process of connecting them. So we need to connect some of these vectors. When it imports the geometry, it doesn't always connect everything. It should, like this outer edge should all be connected. So what we can do is come in here, hold down the Shift key, and highlight all of these vectors that would make up one of these loops. I'm going to zoom in over here, highlight that whole set of vectors. So now that outer frame, if you will, is all one unit. Then I'm going to click on this guy here to join the vectors, and it's going to say, do you really want to join these things, even the things that have gaps of, gosh, 9/1000ths of an inch? So hit yes, and now when I click on that, it shows up as one complete vector. And the same thing's happening over here. So again, holding down the Shift key, I can multi-select a bunch of these different pieces, hit that Join Vectors command, and yes, and now I've got all those are good to go. And I think the rest of these are pretty decent. Another useful thing is to come in here and highlight things that are all going to be the same, that you're going to group together, that you want to select, and there's this button right here to group the vectors together. So now when I highlight or click on one of those, it groups them, and life is good. So that's our imported DXF. We just now need to create the toolpaths associated with that. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. The toolpaths are created or manufactured in the order that we create them, and we can arrange it a little bit different. So I'm going to do a couple of different ways here. Pretend like I'm going to remove this material here and just cut out the letters, so the letters would show up as a white a cutout and the black face. So to do that, I can go into the toolpaths and create this as an advanced V-carve. If I do that, I guess I'll show you the difference between a pocket versus an advanced V-carve. Okay, so let's try it as a pocket first. I'm going to use the current selection, and I'm not going to worry about the details too much. I've got an 1/8 inch cutter. I'm just going to hit OK on this to show you the simulation, what this is going to look like. Now, when I zoom in, you're going to see that certain letters are missing. Like the 1/8 inch cutter couldn't actually sneak inside of this narrow section of the R and the U, so it doesn't look very good. The same thing, the D is getting cut off. One way to work through that would be to go into the CAD model and actually make the text larger, or maybe go with a bold-faced font such that it would open those up and I have more room to get an 1/8 inch cutter. Or I could actually select a smaller cutter, but for our lab we're only using 1/8 inch cutters. So that's not a good choice for this. So I'm going to hit escape out of there, go back to that toolpaths, and I'm going to get rid of this. Just delete it, and I'm going to do it instead with an advanced V-carve, and then you're going to see nice sharp corners, and you'll be able to get into the fine features of this. So use the current selection, and I'm going to enable a pocket tool, which is going to do what the pocket tool did before, just cutting out the big sections of the letters. So that should be fine. I'll edit this, and I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, I could take off as much as, let's go with 80 thousandths deep in that depth per pass. Hit OK on that, and then I'm going to use a, that's a 90-degree V-cutter. Actually, the one we have is a 60-degree V-cutter, so I'm going to go into soft plastic is what the HDPE material is. Grab a V. Oh, there's no V's that are showing up in the soft plastic. Let me check out another one here. Oh, that's entertaining. Okay, so maybe I've got to go into a softwood and actually there's a V category, 60 degree. That should work out for what we're doing here. Okay, and again, depth per pass, 0.080. That should be good. Step over, that should work out. Okay, let's go to the default settings in here. So, yep, we've got an 1/8 inch that's hogging out most of the material, and we follow it up with a V-groove. And the maximum depth, I'm also going to set that to 0.08, so it should be able to knock this all out in one pass. Again, the outer skin of our material is 0.050, 50 thousandths. So I'm going to hit OK on that. That's the advanced V-carve, and that's what it's going to knock out. And I can hit the show simulation on this, and let's see what it looks like. It's thinking about it. All right. And now the thing you can see is it's actually getting into those narrow channels, and it also makes nice sharp corners. It'll bring the router bit in at an angle and make some nice sharp corners. And let's see, how long is this going to take? 11 minutes. So that's not bad. Okay. So that's one way that I can go about this, is actually carve out the material like that. And it would then make a white letters with a black background. But that's not really the design I was going for. I just wanted to show that as an option. So once again, I'm going to delete this. And now I'm going to select this and this and do another advanced V-carve. And when I have both that outer border and the text selected, I'm going to be removing the white material all the way around here. So advanced V-carve, use the selection, enable this pocket again, 1/8 inch, 0.08, make sure that it's cutting all in one big pass, pretty deep, 80 thousandths. And the same thing here for our V-cutter, 60 degree. That should work out quite nicely. And I'm going to hit OK on this. And that's 35 minutes of routing time. It's going to take considerably longer to zip that out. I can shorten that up if I edit my step over paths. So it's an 1/8 inch cutter. That's roughly half of it. It could take less time if I come in here and say, you know what, it's 0.0, maybe 80 thousandths on this as well. That should speed things up a little bit anyway. Still 31 minutes of routing time, and I think we could even cut it faster, but that's fine. So that looks good. And then the outer text, I'm sorry, these holes. Let's worry about these holes next. So if I wanted to grab these holes and have it fabricate those, select the 3 holes, and then hit the, this is a pocket, so use the current selection. That looks great. Here, this material is 0.25 deep. So depth per pass, I can go at 0.08 again. That's a pretty decent number for us. Soft material, should be easy. And I can program that depth into 0.25, and actually I'm going to go make sure it goes all the way through. So I'm going to eat into the spoil board about 10 thousandths of an inch, and that should be good. Hit OK. And that should poke the holes in there. And then the last thing I'm going to do is to cut the outside of the sign out. And for that, we're going to do a contour cut. Use current selection, and I should find the default settings for these so I don't have to update them all the time, but that's fine. So 80 thousandths deep per pass, that looks good. And again, to cut all the way through 0.0 or 0.26, it's a 1/4 inch thick material. And I want to make sure I'm cutting on the outside, and you can see the blue line is my tool path that's coming around. I hit OK, and that's 5 minutes. So that's a lot of routing time, but it's mainly because I hogged out all this material in the middle. So, all right, with that I can hit save the tool paths, and we are ready to go. I can upload this to the machine, and it's saved as a, gosh, what is the file names on these? I forget what the heck they are. Oh, C2D, Carbide Create file. And that opens up with the Carbide Motion file once we get into the router. And just for fun, I'm going to hit the Show Simulation button on this so you can see all the tool paths and what it's going to look like. Oh, and I'm glad I did that because my changing the step over left me with some little bits and pieces here that are sticking out. So I don't like this little bit of extra material, and that's a function of my advanced V-carve, that step over that I put into it. I can get rid of that and change a step over back to about half of the 1/8 inch cutter, which is typical, 0.0625, 1/16 of an inch. Hit OK, OK. Now it's going to take a little bit longer. I guess I wasn't saving that much time. And now when I hit Show Simulation, thinks about it for a while. And hey, there we go. I don't have any of those bad spots anymore. So that looks really sharp. So I think this one is good to go. I would hit Save Toolpaths again, and that should do it. So those are the basics of how you guys can create your DXF files from Creo, export them, open them up into the Carbide Create software, and then create the toolpaths necessary for this project. So have fun with it, and we'll catch you later.